Have you ever looked around and just wondered why, with all our amazing tech, everything feels so expensive? I mean, housing, energy, healthcare, it feels like it's getting harder and harder to build things.
It's a feeling a lot of people have, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. The book is Abundance, How We Build a Better Future, and its whole argument is that the problem isn't our technology, it's our institutions.
Right. So our mission here is to really unpack their main point, that America needs to shift its focus from fighting over what we have to actually building the future.
Exactly, to move beyond what they call the politics of scarcity.
Okay, so let's start with their introduction, which they title Beyond Scarcity.
Yeah, and they paint this really incredible vision of 2050. Imagine a world with plentiful, clean energy everywhere.
Solar, wind, geothermal, all of it.
All of it. And cheap, fresh water from desalination, cities fed by vertical farms. And they argue this isn't some, sci-fi fantasy. It's actually achievable.
But the core insight, and this is what really got me, is that our whole approach is backward. We focus on the demand side subsidies, vouchers, instead of the supply side.
We don't try to make things cheaper to build. And the great irony they point out is that the environmental laws from the 20th century, which were well-intentioned, are now the very things blocking 21st century clean energy projects.
Which brings us right to chapter 1, Grow. And this is all about the housing crisis.
By 2020, they say the median home price hit 6 times the average income. 6 times.
It's unsustainable. And it effectively closes off what they call the American frontier, the ability for people to move to cities with more opportunity.
And it's scarcity created by policy. They use this great term, Lawn Sign Liberalism, for zoning rules that just block new housing. The data is pretty clear. Housing costs explain something like 70% of the difference in homelessness rates between cities.
So it's fundamentally a housing supply problem.
That's the argument, yeah.
So if that's what's happening at the local level, let's zoom out to chapter 2, Build. This is about the massive challenge of big infrastructure.
And it is massive. To decarbonize, we need to build the equivalent of our entire current electrical grid supply every 15 years until 2050.
Wow. And we're just not doing it. They contrast how long it's taking to build high-speed rail in California with, say, China's speed.
Right. It goes back to Mankurt Olson's theory that rich societies get bogged down. There are too many organized groups, too many negotiations, and everything just stops.
Which makes you wonder about chapter 3, Govern.
Yeah.
How do our rules and regulations play into this?
Well, this is where they talk about how the U.S. is governed by lawyers and lawsuits instead of, a centralized bureaucracy. It's all about process.
They give some crazy examples, like affordable housing in San Francisco, where just the compliance costs can add millions of dollars and months of delays.
And then you have the flip side, that I-95 bridge in Philadelphia. It collapsed, and they rebuilt it in just 12 days. They bypassed all the typical rules. It shows we can do it, but our system prefers projects to go badly by the book rather than just get a good outcome quickly.
That paralysis doesn't just affect building sites, though. Let's talk about chapter 4, Invent.
Yeah, this is the Caraco problem. Our funding system, like the NIH, it favors safe, incremental science. It doesn't like the big, bold, risky ideas.
Like mRNA technology was once upon a time.
Exactly. But they hold up Operation Warp Speed as the counterexample. The government didn't just throw money at research. It acted like a bottleneck detective.
A bottleneck detective. I like that.
Yeah, they coordinated manufacturing and testing and everything at once. It proved that public will and private genius can work together when you have that institutional focus.
Which leads right into chapter 5, Deploy. Because inventing something is one thing.
But getting it out there from 1 to 1 billion is everything. We invented the solar cell back in 1954, but other countries, like Germany and China, were the ones who mastered deploying it and making it cheap.
So deployment isn't just luck. It's a skill. It requires deliberate policy.
Absolutely. You need that same bottleneck detection model for everything we invent to make sure we actually build it here.
So, wrapping up with their conclusion.
Yeah.
Toward abundance. The message seems pretty clear. Our failure to build is fueling this political crisis of scarcity and unaffordability that you feel every day.
I think so. They say we're at a molten moment, the old systems are breaking down, and we face a choice, a binary choice.
Scarcity or a new politics of abundance?
This means renewing our institutions and actually prioritizing building more of what matters.
So the key takeaway for you listening is this. If you believe in government, you have to push for it to focus on outcomes, not just on procedure.
And we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. We saw how fast that I-95 bridge was rebuilt when the rules were suspended. What would it actually take to make that kind of urgency our normal, everyday way of doing things? What policies could unlock that potential all the time?